Welcome. This will be our final DCMGA monthly meeting for the year, so thank you all for attending. We appreciate your attendance here. We're going to switch up the order a little bit this time, and I'm going to start with the certificates of appreciation. And the first one goes to Ron Abbey. You want to come up, Ron? Yay. So Ron has been volunteering at the Salvation Army ever since he became a Master Gardener with the class of 2019. He has a strong background in horticulture, retail, and landscaping. He's willing to perform any task, often donates plants to the garden. He created at the Salvation Army Garden a small veggie and herb garden at the Women and Children's Shelter and a small wildflower garden at the courtyard. Ron has single-handedly kept the garden alive during the heat of the summer, and he has also assisted an Eagle Scout in his hometown of Gainesville to set up a native plant garden at a forgotten cemetery. So Ron did all this while working at a full-time job. So thank you, Ron. We appreciate you. Wait. Ron, don't leave so fast. You get your certificate and your pin. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next, we have Janet Smith. I know Janet's here. I saw her earlier. Come on up, Janet. So Janet has been a Master Gardener since 2005. She is an in-house expert on monarch butterflies, native plants, and pollinators. Janet is the leader of the White Rock Bathhouse Demonstration Garden and engages visitors whether they like it or not. She is a sought-after speaker. Janet uses humor, humility, and knowledge to keep us begging for more. She has a passion for nurturing nature and a love of teaching, the perfect combination for Dallas County Master Gardeners. Janet practices what she preaches. Her yard is its own demonstration garden on a Waterwise landscaping tour, and she also shows us how to support wildlife. Her garden is viewed often. It's on a route between two schools, so we've got parents dropping their kids off, and it's quite the sight to see her garden. Janet is also a member of the North Texas Master Naturalists and the Dallas chapter of the Native Plant Society. So congratulations, Janet, and here is your certificate.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Next is Stephen C. Wester. So Stephen has been a Master Gardener since 2015. He has been actively involved in the Dallas County Master Gardener Association ever since. Right after becoming a Master Gardener, Stephen served as director of the Texas Master Gardener Association and is now an alternate. Stephen received advanced certification in vegetables and herbs in 2016 and composting in 2018. Stephen was Speaker of the Year in 2020. Stephen volunteers with the Speakers Bureau, giving presentations on vegetable and herb gardening and inspiring his audience to dig in the dirt. Stephen considers basil to be the king of all herbs. I've heard your basil talk. It's pretty amazing. And Stephen consults for the Vickery Meadows Refugee Garden in East Dallas and the Sandy Jacobs Fruit and Nut Grove at the Denton County office. So thank you, Stephen. We appreciate you. Here you go. Thank you. Next, we have Tig Thompson. I could not do this job without Tig. So Tig has been a Master Gardener since 2001. Let that sink in, 22 years. So most of us know Tig as the statistician for the organization, including his oversight of VMS badges, anniversary awards, MG certification, and background checks. It's a full-time job, right? Yeah. I believe, and it's an unpaid full-time job. Tig is one of the co-leaders of the Master Gardener's Garden at Texas Discovery Garden, and he also volunteers at the Raincatcher's Garden. He works independently, needing little or no direction. And on a personal note, Tig is extremely responsive to all of my crazy requests and offers sage advice when I need it, and even when I don't ask for it. So I appreciate you. Thank you. There you go, Tig. Thank you. Next, we have Maureen O'Hanahan. So Maureen was part of the class of 2018, and what an awesome class that was. Maureen is co-leader of the help desk with Rick Koch and has been in that role since 2019. She and Rick Koch have reinvented how the help desk operates since the time of COVID. As co-leader, she drives the effort to collect reliable, research-based information on a wide range of topics. That information assists help desk volunteers to answer a wide range of questions. Maureen recruits speakers to give presentations to the help desk each month. She also recruits new help desk volunteers. And in addition to all that, she is co-leader at the Moss Haven Elementary School farm, cultivating a respect for the earth and food growth process. So she can't make it today, but kudos to Maureen, and we will get her certificate to her. And finally, we have Roseanne Ferguson, and you cannot pry Roseanne away from TDG. Roseanne has been a Master Gardener since 2008. She's a leader of the volunteer team that does propagation down at TDG. And not only does she train and teach volunteers on how to propagate, but she's also the primary propagator there herself. Many days she is at TDG without much help, sorting, scarcifying, stratifying, planting, and watering those plants for propagation. She is there every single weekday, rain or shine, and has earned far more volunteer hours than you can imagine. In her free time, Roseanne is a member of the Speakers Bureau, teaching folks about propagation or how to decorate a pumpkin with succulents. She may even have a wreath decorating class coming up, so stay tuned. Moving on, I'd like to recognize the green team for the month of October. We have Lisa Santala, Leslie Densmore, Ollie Tinsley, Caroline Troutman, Coy Portier, did I pronounce your name correctly? Debbie Coate, Katrina Portier, Adriana Rogers, Rebecca Trevino, and Gigi Chance. So could you all stand up, please? Congratulations, if you're here. No? So earlier this month, on November 4th, we had a Taste of the Gardens, and this one was at RB1. Here's a couple folks, and the sweet potatoes were huge. So congrats to RB1 on such a productive season. And also thank you to Janet Lane for organizing these events. Glenn and JD were amazing hosts, and we appreciate all the effort that you put into that. Hopefully we'll get some new volunteers at RB1. And next, Elaine, I believe you're going to talk about the garden tour.
Thank you, Monica. Hello, everyone. How y'all doing? So I'm the lucky one that gets to bring to you the exciting news about our 2024 garden tour. And we're very excited, myself and the co-chairs, who I will introduce in just a moment. We're very excited to present this to you. I'm just going to go through an overview of it this morning, and there'll be a lot more information to follow. But this will kind of just get your mouth wet for it, so you can kind of see what gardens were selected, the area, the date, all that good stuff, and also we're looking for volunteers. So I'll go over all that information too. Okay, so the date. The date will be Saturday, May 18th. It is going to be a single-day tour next year rather than the two-day. And so mark that date down because that is the date. It'll be rain or shine, so we're all going to have to pray for rain. Pray for shine for good weather for our tour. And so here is the chairs. Myself, I'm Elaine Webster. And also, if the other co-chairs could stand up so you can see their faces. We've got Margaret Horansky, Christy Lawrence, Chris Geyer. Can you all stand up? Yeah, so these ladies, yes. Definitely a round of applause. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this already, so and much more to follow. So I will be the main contact person, so my information is right there. And that's also on the Mark Your Calendar that went out on the 15th. And we'll be sending out a lot more information, but this is, if you have any questions or if you want to volunteer for something, you can either talk to one of the team members or shoot me a note or talk to me. So this is our largest fundraiser, as you all know. It's biannual. And there's a lot of benefits to it. It builds Dallas County Master Gardener awareness in Dallas County. It provides, there's a lot of educational opportunities because we have speakers in the gardens. These gardens are learning experiences in themselves. We've got the gardens that we selected, they're beautiful and unique, in their own right, and we're just very excited about each and every one of them. So there's a lot to show Dallas County and the surrounding DFW area, what the Master Gardeners do, and what type of garden show we can put on. So we're very excited to be able to be involved with that. Next year's tour is going to be in East Dallas, and it's kind of concentrated in the White Rock area along the lake and to the east of the lake up into Old Lake Highlands. So the gardens are fairly close to each other, so it should be fairly easy for everyone anybody that wants to come to the tour and get to see all of the gardens, they'll be able to do that because they are very close to each other. Here are our gardens. The folks that have volunteered and agreed, and we've selected them. We went out and visited each of the gardens, talked to the owners, and these are the gardens that we are showcasing for our tour next year, and we're very excited about it. So we have the Bathhouse Cultural Center with Janet Smith as the lead there. The home gardens, also the main gardens with Jennifer Bowers, Nancy Griswold, Vera Gillen, Monica Nagel, and Susie Rentz. And then we also have 2 bonus gardens. So we've got the Janet Smith's home garden, and we also are going to have, since she's right there, and it is such a beautiful garden to drive by and look at, we wanted to make sure that was showcased. So that will be a home garden that's an add-on, as well as the South Pack White Rock Trail Garden, which is on the west side of White Rock Lake. But it's a beautiful garden that Maggie Saucedo has led. And so that will be another bonus garden that we'll have out there. So we'll have 7 total gardens, 5 main ones and 2 add-ons. So very excited about that. And these gardens are all, like I said, very unique. We've got terraced garden, multi-terraced gardens. We have outdoor living spaces, some of them back up to park areas, which are really cool, and creek areas. There's alleys that are being utilized for additional garden space, which is really cool to see. We've got vegetable garden, so it's just a lot of different, of course, pollinators, lots of Texas natives in these gardens. So it's just a really nice mix and a varied look at things you can do in your garden. So I think people will really enjoy visiting them. The benefits of the tour, of course, why would you want to volunteer for it? It is a great way to meet other master gardeners. It also, you can work towards your 30 service hours is another big thing. It also is a chance to educate and encourage gardeners from the community. I mean, that's what we like to do, right? We like to encourage other people to get out there and garden, more green space, natural habitats, things like that. And it's an excellent way to build Dallas County Master Garden Association awareness in Dallas County. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So we don't want to forget that aspect of it. So volunteering, we need you. We need a lot of people to help us with this tour. So we've got some subcommittees that we're putting together: fundraising, sponsorships, publicity. Help with building the plant list within the gardens. There's a lot of activity that needs to go on before the garden tour. And then, of course, when we get close to the tour, we're going to need the docents, folks working at the gardens, greeters, people manning the tables, things like that. So there'll be a lot of opportunities there too. But we're going to utilize Sign Up Genius, and we'll send out more information on this within the next couple weeks on how you can sign up to be on a subcommittee. You can always contact me or talk to any of the other co-chairs. If you're interested in volunteering, and I've already gotten a few emails on that. And so we'll find a place for you, something that you're interested in doing. But we'll have a wave of things that need to be done now, and then a wave of things that will need to be done closer to the tour. But we'll need everybody's help with this, because there's a lot to do. And then sponsorships. This is another area that we could really use everybody's help with. If you know anyone, a business person that you think would like to sponsor us, We're going to have sponsorship levels anywhere from $2,000 down to $100 for like the Friends level. And so there's a lot of opportunity. We'll be putting their logos on our T-shirts, we're going to have large signage at each of the gardens with all of our sponsor names on it, as well as on the website. So there's a lot of places that their names will appear, but a lot of people just like to donate or sponsor just for the sake of it because they like what we're doing for the education. We've got a sponsorship letters and emails along with a document that shows all the different levels that they can contribute to. And that's in the approval process right now. So we'll have that ready, hopefully within the next week, so that we can start communicating that out. And we just ask you, if you are going to contact somebody, just let one of us know so that we can kind of keep a running list of who all we're contacting so that we don't have multiple people contacting the same people, and we kind of know where we're at with things. So just keep us informed. If you have folks that you want to talk to, go ahead and talk to them, even before you have any letters, because a lot of people have funds that they can utilize this year, and they may not have the funds, that they can utilize next year. But some people have money sitting around that they haven't spent yet. So if you have anybody that you think might be interested, talk to them, okay, and let us know. So we really appreciate that. And as far as the sponsorship goes, like I said, there is a subcommittee that we're creating, to help out with this whole, just managing the whole process. But you can either provide us with the names of folks, and we will contact them, or if you want to, talk to them yourself, that's great too. But we have, we will contact them also. So, if you'd rather that, just let us know. And then speakers. Of course, we will be having speakers at each of the gardens. Hopefully two speakers, or it might be something like it's an educational activity or a subject matter expert that's there in the garden answering questions. Multiple types of ways we can utilize this, but we will have educators at the gardens, other than the docents, of course, and the garden owners. So if you know anybody, if you are a speaker that is interested in speaking, let us know. Or if you know anybody that you think would be a great speaker, it may be somebody with agri-life experience. It might be somebody who is just educational, a subject matter expert, a master gardener. Doesn't have to be a master gardener. It can be somebody with agri-life or with some sort of expert on subjects. So just let us know if you have anybody that you think would be a good fit. And then publicity and advertising, there's another piece of it. The ways we make money off of this, of course, are sponsorships, publicity, if we are able to, pull in anything that way, ticket sales, and then doing a silent auction, raffle, things like that. But sponsorships is probably really the biggest way of getting the money in, but the other thing is with the ticket sales and things like that. But publicity and advertising, we need to get the word out. And so we're working on this now, but we do have a committee that we're forming to help us with this, because the more folks we have helping with this, the more ideas we have, and the more we can get out and reach, different publications like The Advocate, White Rock Weekly, the different local papers. There's also folks, in garden clubs. They're another source of bringing people for ticket sales, or they may want to sponsor. The friends of some of the different related communities may want to sponsor us. There's a lot of things along that way too. But going back to publicity and advertising, there's a lot of places that we can put our information. We are creating a QR code that's going to be out there that'll be a one source to get to all the information, ticket sales, information on all the gardens, just everything. So we will have that available, and that'll be on all of our signage. And so there's lots of opportunity there. But free publicity, of course, that we'd love as much free publicity as possible. So again, save the date, May 18th, it's a Saturday. Contact me if you have any questions, or you'd like to volunteer for something, or if you have any ideas, or any of the team members. Any questions right now? Like I said, this was kind of a quick overview, and there'll be a lot more information to follow. Great, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good morning, everyone. Wanted to do a spotlight this month on a project that we had out at R&B. This last month, we had a winemaking class, and I just wanted to show you a couple of things about that and hopefully spark a little interest in maybe some people coming out and either doing that or helping out with the class next year. Science and Art of Winemaking, we had Michael Cook, our Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Viticulture Program Specialist, come down from Denton and spend a day with us to teach a lot of the science and a lot of the particulars of the chemicals and things that you use in winemaking, and also a lot of really fun instruction as well. And then on the following 3 Saturdays, Sherry, Honey, Kathy, and I were there to lead the participants through the actual finishing out the wine, racking the wine, filtering the wine and bottling the wine, and of course getting to taste a little of the wine as well. It was a very hands-on class. There was very little in the way of PowerPoint. In fact, I don't think we ever showed anything up on a screen at all. It was all just really a workshop where we went through the class, and you can see the people doing all the different things here. And of course, we had to have a day where we had a charcuterie board and some jellies and things for people to try, and just had a really fun time. And we ended up making 4 different wines. 2 reds and 2 whites, if you could call muscadine red, sweet and a dry of each one of those. From the vine to wine was sort of our overreaching theory. We took them out and showed them the grapes out in the vineyard, had them taste some of the grapes off the vines. Then we had them go through, of course, all the steps in making the wine, all the way up to the point where we actually bottled it, and they got to take some wine home with them. Again, hands-on training. Again, you can see here all the different steps and the participants. We had, I think it was about 20 participants, no, 13 to 14 participants, and they were just the most engaged group. They were so interactive and happy to be there and just had a really fun time. Here's the class at the end with all the wines that we made. Here's some of the participant feedback. Connie said, the winemaking class is above and beyond my expectations. Skipping down a couple, Eric Davis said this was the best 4 Saturdays of my year. And Emily Wynn said, this class was so unique and informative. I love that it was able to put my hands on every part of the winemaking, from tasting the grapes in the vineyard to corking the bottle. 10 out of 10 would recommend. So again, thank you all of you that helped out with that class. And just to think forward, a little bit, in February, we will be having Michael come back out and teach a pruning class in the vineyard. So if you have grapevines and want to learn how to prune them, this is a great opportunity. If you don't have grapevines but would like to learn how to propagate some and take some home with you, we will also be demonstrating that, and you'll be able to take cuttings off some of the grapevines to take home with you to propagate if you'd like to do that as well. And pretty much every Tuesday of the year, we're out there working in the vineyard, and that's usually on the calendar telling you the times. It varies throughout the year, but we'd love to see you come out and visit with us in the vineyard and the orchard and see what's going on there. Real quick, if any of you are interested in either helping out with the wine classes, or if any of you, I'm going to be doing a propagation class sometime in the spring, if you would like to come out and help with that, please let me know, and I'll be glad to take your name down and get in contact with you as we get closer to those things and get you involved. So thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. The website team has been very busy adding features to the website that we hope you will find useful. To help you familiarize yourselves with these features and their locations on the website, we thought we would show you where you can find them. The monthly meetings are held in person, but we know that not everybody can attend each and every meeting. So recordings of the meetings are being made readily available on the Dallas County Master Gardener Association YouTube channel. Our public events calendar shows the date, time, location, and Zoom link to our live meetings. But if you are unable to attend a monthly meeting in person, you may view the recordings on our public YouTube channel. Board meetings are held monthly and are open to all Dallas County Master Gardener Association members and are held on the second Tuesday of each month at 10 a.m. via Zoom. There is no scheduled board meeting in December. So, how do you access this information from the website? At the top of the home page, you will click on the About Us tab. The first category on the About Us tab is Dallas County Master Gardener Association. So please click on that. Scroll down the page and you will see the category about monthly meetings and an arrow, a red arrow, that will take you to the YouTube meeting options that are listed by month and year. The next paragraph is about the monthly board meetings. A new feature here is the availability of the minutes of the previous meetings dating back all the way to 2021. So you will simply scroll down to the very bottom of the page, and we apologize that it's not as sharp as we would like it to be.
I take the blame.
But it says, for those who can't read it, to review the minutes of previous meetings, click here. So on the left side of this slide, you will see that clicking on the link about the monthly meetings brings you to this. And so they're listed by month and year. So if you want to see January 2022, you scroll down to January 2022 and you will have a copy of the minutes. So clicking on the arrow under monthly meetings that will bring on the right side will take you to this page, which shows a little snapshot of each YouTube by month and year. So now Zondra's going to tell you about some of the other fun things.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. I haven't been to a monthly meeting in person in a while, and I'm glad to be here. First of all, I want to thank Sue Smith, second VP on the board, and I had her job way back when, and setting up the meetings, and so it's, yeah. The other thing she's been doing is she's been writing an article that you'll find on Members Only under the news section, which goes into the list of 2024 meeting dates. There will be no meetings in July and December. Meeting times are now 12 p.m. to 1:30 in 2024. And if you want to email Sue, please take down her. Oh, is that what you have to have? Okay, and please take down her email address, okay? Just remember, if you want to see MG-only educational and volunteer opportunities on the event calendar on the public page, homepage of the website, you must log in to Members Only. If you need help logging in or information about that, you can contact Cynthia or myself. The next thing I want to talk about is contact lists. Okay? And this is also on the front page of the Members Only section, but you have to scroll down to Master Gardener Resources. The contact lists include class captains, DCMGA board members, project leaders, and committee chairs, and other roles. Okay? So you might want to look, if you're looking for somebody and who's in charge of a committee, like the garden tour, you should find them on that page. To all the master gardeners who are behind the scenes on the website, and if you are here, please stand. Alexa Peterson, webmaster, Gretchen Reynolds, content manager. Come on, Gretchen. Catherine Heeman, content manager, and Liddy DeShottle, pictures. And to all the article writers along, with what Cynthia and we do on the website, we want to express our gratitude to them and also to you, the Dallas County Master Gardeners and Texas A&M AgriLife. We want to wish you a wonderful Thanksgiving and the happiest of holidays. Thank you.
Good morning. How's everybody doing? Good to see everyone. All right, okay. Is it capturing? Yes, perfect. Okie dokie. Let me make sure that I'm glad I made it today. Sorry that I wasn't able to attend last October meeting. I was doing something else. I don't remember what it was. So let me see here. A couple of updates that I know you are probably aware of, but it probably is good to clarify what some of the updates are. So the first one is this extension volunteer standards that was rolled out in September. September 1st, it became effective. And it will apply to all master volunteers, so whether you're a gardener, a naturalist, a 4-H, any type of volunteer that works for extension will have to do this. Now, this will not apply to you until it's time to be rescreened for your background checks. So most of you, I believe, and Tig can set me straight, but I believe that most of you, I would say 95% of you, have already been screened lately, and so you are, probably won't hear from us until end of 2024 or 2025. And we will contact you to let you know that it's time for that rescreening. The people that are going through this right now are our candidates for the Master Gardener School of 2024. So they're having to go through this process right now. But again, I just thought that I would sort of quickly review this, what will happen, and I can do it again next year. Let's see, there we go. So starting up here, you would basically, when we contact you, we'll send you a link, which is EVS, that stands for Extension Volunteer Standards, evs.tamu.edu, I believe. And you will go on to that website, and you will have to fill out a quick application. Basically, it's a one-page form. And you're not reapplying to be a master gardener, you're actually just putting your information in so that you will go into the data system or the database of EVS. So that's the purpose of that one pager. Once you've done that, you will get an email saying, welcome to EVS, and then you will be given a link to AgriLife Learn, and that will take you basically to the training that you will have to do. It's a 2 to 3 hour training, depending how many breaks you take, but it will take you to basically the second bubble is showing you that that's where you would do your training. And then when you finish your training, you'll get yet another email that will say, congratulations, you passed the training, now you're ready to go through the background check. And that will take you to the company, Sterling, who is in charge of doing the background checks. And you will put all your information in, and off it goes. Notice that for each one of those steps, you will be using the same email address. Okay, so you will need an email address. Can't be your daughter's, it can't be your husband's, it has to be your personal email address, and it will be used several times, well, 3 times to be specific. To apply to the EVS system, again, it will ask you for that because that's how you are being tagged. That's your ID as your email address to allow you for the training, and then again for the Sterling background check. When do you pay? You pay in step 2. So when it's time to get that training, that's when you will have to pay the $12. That's the fee for this whole process. So again, that will have to take place every 3 years. And once you pass the screening, I basically can go through the back door into the same system and see who has been approved and who has not. And of course, I will relay that information to Tig. And between the two of us, we may be tapping on some shoulders going, hey, you still need to do that. So that's basically, in a nutshell, how the new system is working. Everybody throughout the state is moving to this system, and like I said, hopefully it'll be much smoother than the way it used to be done. Any questions? The question is whether you get CEs. Again, I'll start calling them CEs because units are a little bit more formal than that, but she's asking if you would get CEs for completing this. And again, I think that I'm going to ask my fellow agents and see what they're doing, and then maybe also confer with Jayla. My inclination is to say no, since it's kind of a requirement, but let me see. Yeah, it's a fair question. It has 3 parts. Basically, it talks about, what it means to be an extension master volunteer. I believe that it has a portion about financial management, and I think there's also a portion related to working with children. So I did have, a separate slide for a little more detail, but everything I just said is, this is just a breakdown of what I just explained to you. So, all right. Next are these annual summaries, and I'm not expecting you to look at the details here, but the reason I wanted to put them up is just because I want to share the accountability that as extension agents we go through. And so we are required, as I've said before, 2 in-depth educational programs a year. So that is one right there. This is my second one right there. The Master Gardener program is one of them. And for these in-depth programs to be approved, our district program leads need to look through them and make sure that they're in line with the issues in the counties. So we must show relevance, and you can see that in those right there at the top. So before it even gets approved, we have to show relevance to our counties to make sure that it's, again, specific to the county and community. So the reason I'm pointing this out is because what may be relevant to Collin County may not be relevant to Dallas County, and vice versa. And so again, I'm making this point because sometimes you may wonder why other Master Garden programs do what they do and we don't. Or maybe I ask you to do some things and they don't get asked to do those things by their agents. So if you ever see those kind of differences, it's because of this. We're being, we are having to respond to the needs of the community. And this formula applies to all counties across Texas. So towards the end of the year, we must report back to our program leads with a summary such as the one that you see up here. I shared with the board the other day, just again to keep them abreast of what we do. And the summaries include the response to the issue, right? We put the relevance, but now we're putting also the response. The success of the educational program based on the various evaluation tools. So you see that on that page over there. And any partnerships and collaborations that we have developed along the way that will enhance the effectiveness of the program. And of course, also plans for future programming. Also note, again, I know sometimes the words themselves are a little confusing, so I want to continue emphasizing the use of words because it's important. These are considered programs. I do a lot more than that throughout the year, but the reason they are considered programs is because the working definition in the eyes of extension is that it's a sustained combination of educational modalities. So this program, we offer formal and informal lessons, hands-on learning, social media outreach, written articles, community events, etc. Okay, so it's not that just one presentation, right? It's throughout with many types of modalities. And in addition to that, in-depth programs always, or as much as possible, must include an evaluation so that we can determine if we're making any impact on the quality of people's lives and the quality of the environment. So again, I think it's good for you to understand how I have to work so that when I ask our members and our master gardeners as a whole, that you understand where I'm coming from. So again, you see the numbers, 42,631 were the numbers for 2023. And that was actually, they have changed our schedule, our reporting. Now we have to go from August to August. So that actually reflects the numbers from 2022, August 2022, all the way to August 2023. So thank you everyone for all the hours. You did fantastically, both in the garden, out in the community. I'm also very grateful to the association for the countless hours of fundraising, meetings, organizing. I really am very grateful for that. Okay, so let's see. I have one more thing that I needed to do before moving on. Let's see. So that's my second one. As you all know, we have the Citizen Gardening Training in-depth program, and the class itself, we renamed it to Edible Gardening for All. But this is the committee that helps to guide us. Just like the board is the committee that helps me guide the Master Gardener program, I have a separate committee that helps me guide the Citizen Gardening Training. Okay, certification requirements, they are not changing in total hours for 2024. But you will notice that I am asking that 6 of those 30 will be in the arena or area of public education or knowledge sharing. And I know that Monica has been sending out the different videos and reminders to kind of get us all into this new mindset that we need to sort of correct our mission a little bit. And as we're working together, setting up new opportunities for you all to be involved in knowledge sharing and public education, I think this will become a no-brainer. It'll be super easy to fulfill. The 6 hours of continuing education, that is not changing either for 2024. However, I do know, because we got the notification this week, that they will be moving to 10 hours for 2025. That's when it's going to go into effect. I spoke to Jayla this morning to clarify that. So she will be making that announcement at the Texas Master Gardener Conference this year, that instead of doing 6 hours of education, you'll have to go to 10 hours. But she doesn't really anticipate you pushing back because you all want to learn more about gardening and good horticulture practices. So that's that in terms of any type of updates. So now it is my pleasure to announce our guest speaker. Ashley, where are you? Are you here? Oh, yes, you are. Okay, good. So I met Ashley about 8 years ago when I started making my transition from horticulture over to entomology. Ashley's invasive beetle 2016 study was a crash course for me in taxonomy and insect curating. 3 months of 8-hour days, identifying, discarding, double-checking, preserving. It was great, and I totally fell in love with the field of entomology, and I knew I needed to go back to school one more time to get my master's in entomology. So Ashley, whether you know it or not, you inspired me, and thank you so much for that. Let me tell you a little bit more about Ashley. Again, her name is Ashley Morgan Olvera. She received her MS in parasitology from Sam Houston State University in 2011. Shortly thereafter, she joined the Texas Invasive Species Institute, or TISI, as a field biologist, directing multiple invasive beetle, snail, honeybee pest, and parasite surveys throughout the years. Knowing public education is vital to the management and prevention of invasive species, she acquired the TexasInvasiveSpecies.org program from the Wildflower Center in 2020 to reignite statewide invasive species outreach. And now she's the director of research and education for both entities and looks forward to continuing outreach and prevention of invasive species. So her talk today, it is Invasive Species, How to ID, Report, and Remove with Texas Invasives. Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Hey, good afternoon, technically now, everybody. So how exciting. I am the last meeting that y'all have for the rest of the year. So that means you're gonna be thinking about invasives all over the holidays. I'm very excited about this. And yeah, it is really special that I knew that Katerina became an extension agent up here, and when I saw her name on the schedule, I was like, I actually get to see her because it has been many years, and that's awesome that it inspired you as well. So good afternoon, I'm Ashley. I'm the director of the Texas Invasive Species Institute. As Katerina mentioned, we have now merged with TexasInvasives.org. So basically, if you Google Texas and invasives, you will find our resources. So we focus on early detection and rapid response to invasive pests. Like Katerina had mentioned, we do a lot of invasive pest, beetle, citrusillid surveys, but we also do a lot of public education, because if you don't know what an invasive species is, then how are you going to do better? How are you going to stop spreading things around? So that's why we focus so much on public education. So we do have two websites that are still up. We have TexasInvasives.org and TSUS Invasives. That stands for Texas State University System, because Sam Houston State University is within the TSUS organization. So we have two websites. They're set up the same. They have species information. So any of the invasives that I talked to you about today, you don't have to memorize. We have the information there available on the website. We provide pictures, descriptions, locations, habitat where they could be found, and even lookalikes that you may encounter as well. So for any reporting of invasive species, we do that through TexasInvasives.org, but we'll talk about how to report towards the end. I always like to start at the beginning, right? We always kind of need to get on the same page of what is an invasive species, because I often hear like exotic or weeds or things like that. People are interchanging them with invasive species, and they are not interchangeable words. So in 1999, President Clinton issued an executive order. So if you think about the timeline of things, it wasn't until almost the turn of the century where there was an actual federal definition on what an invasive species is. So by the time the government is creating the definition, they know that it's already a problem. It's something that scientists have been screaming about for decades, is now finally being taken seriously. So an invasive species is defined as a species non-native or alien to the ecosystem under consideration, whose introduction causes or is likely to cause economic or environmental harm or harm to human health. It's red, it's bolded. That is the important difference between an exotic, a weed, or an invasive species. An invasive species causes harm. Can an invasive species be a weed? Yes. Can it be an exotic species? Yes, it can. But it has to cause harm. Harm can come in many different facets, many different flavors. Some species cause a lot of harm. Some may only cause harm in one aspect. But again, if it is causing harm, that's why it's been labeled an invasive species. So they can cause harm to natural heritage, forestry, lumber, agriculture, economy, industry, our recreation, our health, our animals' health. They can pose harm in different ways. Sometimes it can be kind of obvious the harm that they cause. So the emerald ash borer is one of our more infamous invasives that we'll be talking about today. This is the same street in Ohio 3 years apart. Before the emerald ash borer, after the emerald ash borer. All the ash trees along this street were completely killed off. And ironically, before these were ash trees, in the 80s, they were elm trees, and that's when an invasive pathogen called Dutch elm disease came through. So also the moral of the story is maybe don't plant monocultures. Maybe plant some diversity as well, because if they had some non-ash trees there, they wouldn't have had to, the city wouldn't have to redo it all over again. Sometimes their threat could be they are very small but mighty. So the red imported fire ant. Yes, we do have native fire ants here in Texas, But most oftentimes, the one you've encountered is this one, the red imported fire ant. So it's a very aggressive species. It's known to attack ground-dwelling animals. It has impacted bobwhite quail populations, horned lizard populations, right? It'll eat their eggs, it'll attack them. So they have a significant ecological impact. They also have a significant economic impact. So not only do they eat animals, but they will eat your crops as well. They've been known to be pests of blueberries, cabbage. And then just in our state alone, in Texas alone, it costs $500 million to manage them. Not eradicate. By no means can we eradicate this pest. It's in about 90% of our Texas counties. The only area that doesn't really have fire ants is the far west panhandle, where even humans aren't really at, so I don't blame them. And don't get me wrong, I have family in Lubbock. I love the panhandle, but I mean, it's even like past there. So that's one species, and it even causes harm to human or animal health. Just like if you're allergic to honeybee stings, if you are allergic to fire ant stings, it can cause anaphylactic shock. So this is a species that causes harm in almost every single one of the facets. But it's important that it's called that because it causes harm. So oftentimes we know how things disperse. Maybe the seeds catch winds, birds can fly, insects can fly, right? A lot of the times we understand how animals have gotten where they are or why they're present where they are, but sometimes we can't always explain it, and a lot of the times that's usually we can't explain the expansion of an invasive species, and that's usually because of us. We're giving them a free ride. Humans have been moving things around for centuries, over millennia, ever since Marco Polo went over to China, right? That's a lot of moving stuff back and forth for a very long time, and that's why we have invasive species. Zebra mussels were accidentally brought here in ship ballast water. A ship pulls up water when it docks, and then it sails across the ocean, and then it docks again and it releases ballast water. That's how zebra mussels got here. Emerald ash borer got here in wooden pallets. It's a bark boring beetle, so it spent part of its life in the wooden pallets. We weren't looking for things like that. It comes here, it emerges. So a lot of it has been accidental, moving firewood around. We'll talk a lot about that. There's been a lot of purposeful stuff as well. The nursery industry is going to be your biggest propagator of the sale of invasive plants. It's really important to note, invasive does not mean illegal. So it is really up to you when you go buy new plants to be aware of what is a native species, what's invasive, and to not buy those. And then also being pets and aquariums. So the pet industry is the reason we have python issues, we have lionfish issues, we have sucker-mouth catfish issues. Thankfully, we don't have pythons here in Texas, but we all know how much problems they're causing in the Everglades. And then some of it has been the scientists, right? Biological controls. So back in the 80s, right, we had a lot of thoughts of, okay, we've got a problem. Well, let's just bring something over from its same habitat, we'll solve the problem, right? So you've got hydrilla going out of control. They bring over grass carp. Great idea, right? It eats the hydrilla, it's a grass carp, perfect. Problem is, grass carp reproduce faster than our species. So what would happen is you introduced something to control the hydrilla, which it did, but then it outcompeted all the other fish. So then in your native lake, all you have is an imported fish. So sometimes it's been biocontrols, like the cane toad was intentionally brought to Australia to control something. The problem is the cane toad gets up to about 20 pounds and has a hallucinogenic secretion that is harmful to the unique marsupials that live on Australia, right? So sometimes it's the scientists making the mistakes. So that's also why you may hear about something. Sometimes I get asked, well, why haven't they released this biocontrol yet? Because we're taking our time now. We don't rush these things. It takes about 10 years to make sure, does this do what it's supposed to do? Does it solve the problem and then go away? Great. So we'll talk about a few species that, they were accidentally introduced. So what can you do? You can definitely stay informed. I'll pass around some clipboards. And also, before I forget, there is a table in the back. Y'all can get up while I'm talking or while we're doing questions at the end, but there are some pamphlets and freebies that I want y'all to take home with you. But you can always sign up for our monthly iWire. It goes out once a month. We highlight different citizen scientist groups that are doing invasive species removal. Sometimes we're talking about, sometimes there is success in invasive species research. So you might hear about new things that are happening in the United States or in Texas. So if you're ever interested, you can always sign up. But what you can definitely do is not give them a free ride. Just be really aware of what you're doing. What are your habits, right? Clean, drain, dry, thankfully, is a law now because it has been directly associated with the spread of things like hydrilla, giant salvinia, zebra mussels, right? Not cleaning and draining and drying your boat before moving to a new location. It's state law now. So keeping up with that as well. Not moving firewood. That's how so many of our bark beetles and our invasive pests are moving around. Some insects, like the Asian citrus psyllid, they don't fly, yet they've been able to invade from Florida to Texas to California. If that insect doesn't fly, how is it getting anywhere, right? It's us moving things along, right? So that's why don't move firewood is so important. It sounds really silly sometimes, but we'll kind of talk a little bit more about why you don't move it. It's really just to not give things a free ride, and then there's the citrus psyllid right there. And then also look at what comes into your house. When you bring in new mulch, new plants, that's oftentimes when some of these invertebrates will suddenly appear. You might see a black slug you've never seen before. You might see a hammerhead flatworm. You might notice some jumping worms, right? So just be aware of what you're bringing in your house. And then also remember to leave no trace, especially with these garden tours coming up, maybe having boot rinsing stations, things like that, right? Trying to leave things where they are and not take anything with you. So please remember, invasive does not mean prohibited. So I will talk to you about how Chinese privet is terrible and you should never have it, yet I can't stop you from going to buy it. So there are quite a lot. This is just a little snippet. You go to texasinvasives.org, you'll see hundreds of invasive plant species. But these are some. So you've got nandina, privets, golden bamboo, elephant ears, mimosa tree, tree of heaven, honeysuckles. Those are all commonly sold, and they are very aggressive and invasive species, especially bamboo and privets. Ugh. I'm getting started on bamboo. So we're only half of the picture. We're doing some of the research. We're trying to do our public outreach. We're trying to do our education. But the other half of the picture is engaged citizens like you. We need help looking for things, removing things, reporting things. And that's why we have created things like the Sentinel Pest Network on texasinvasives.org. So what that is a separate list. So I've talked to you, I'm like, oh, there's hundreds of invasives, but there are only some that we have you report to us, and those are considered pests of high regulatory significance. Long story short, without going through all the words, they're the big bad ones. They're ones that we know will cost us a lot of money, and we need to keep an eye on if they're here in the state. So it started off as a list of 12. It has obviously grown to more than a list of 12 now. So this is our Sentinel pest list, where it has things from apple snail, cactus moth, gypsy moth, crazy ant, emerald ash borer, giant salvinia, Japanese climbing fern, zebra mussels. You'll see this column right here. Those are the ones that are present here in Texas. So when this first started, that column was basically clear. None of those species were here. And now it is still filling out. And I'll often get the question, well, if it's already here, why do you want us reporting still? Because we need to know where it is going and how fast is it going? Is it making sudden jumps? Or is it kind of making sense the way that it's been expanding? So we just need to know that information, and we'll talk about how you can report in a little bit. Hold on, recorders, I've got to pass things out to the audience. So what I'm passing around is an example of an emerald ash borer adult, and either it's tunnels or it's D-shaped exit holes is what's going around. If you have the D-shaped exit, actually just looking at it in general, I really like to pass this one out because it is not a big beetle, but it causes a lot of problems. So the emerald ash borer is native to Russia, China, Japan. How did it get here? I kind of touched on it. Basically, pellets made from ash. They were pupa, they came over here, and then the adults emerged in Michigan. So Michigan was ground zero, and then it's expanded since then. All of the yellow are counties where EAB is present. Of course, they haven't updated it to include Cook County over here, but if you have ever made this drive, if you've ever driven through Missouri or Illinois in the summertime, all those dead trees are ash. It's really devastating. So the problem with this one is it will attack any species of ash. So we have thousands of native bark beetles. Every tree that in your yard has a bark beetle in it. But the thing is, I like to put it this way. Our native bark beetles, they don't like to burn the house down. They like the house that they're in. They like to keep it up and standing so that they can be there, their kids, their grandkids, right? They want generations in this house. Invasive beetles, they don't care. They burn the house down, they burn the house down, they burn the whole neighborhood down, and then they keep going, right? That's how aggressive they are. So they will attack young, healthy ash trees. They will attack any species of Fraxinus. If it is an ash, so prickly ash is not a Fraxinus, right? But if it's a green ash, Texas ash, white ash, whoo. So these are the counties that it's now present here. So it's first reported in the Texarkana area about 7 years ago. Now it's here in your area. First it was Tarrant County, Dallas, and recently Cook County. So this is one of those we're still actively watching for because we don't want it to get widespread throughout here. We don't want it to kill all of the ash trees, and we certainly don't want it to make its way down either the 35 or 45 corridors as well. So this is how it got here. It is a wood-boring beetle. That means it spends most of its life cycle in a tree, eating it, disrupting the phloem. So the adults will emerge. That's what that D-shaped exit hole is when you're looking, those little tiny. So the adults emerge. They lay eggs on the bark. The eggs hatch. They become larvae. The larvae then start burrowing through the tree. So if you had the piece of wood that had the channels dug out, that was done by the larva. They then pupate over winter. So around October, they pupate until about March or April the next year. It has to get a certain amount of degree days. And then once they emerge, these insects can fly for miles to find a new tree. So again, it is not a large beetle. As you probably saw in that little vial, it is not a large beetle. It is a unique looking beetle compared to our other native species. We do have native Agrilis species. I'm not talking to you about our native Agrilis species because they mind their business. They keep the house up. They usually don't cause any problems unless your tree is drought stricken. But emerald ash borer problems all day long. So it is bright metallic green. If you were looking in the vial, it's not exactly like in your face green, but it's a green beetle. I call it a Christmas beetle because this is going to be how you tell the difference. The underside, the back of their abdomen, is going to be coppery red to a purplish color. Our native species, the wings or the elytra are the exact same color on the abdomen, right? So the fact that this has green wings and a purplish red abdomen is the main difference. But also, where are you seeing this green beetle? Is it on your ash tree? Because again, this tree or this insect is specific to the genus of ash. So are you noticing your canopy is starting to die? That's usually how you notice bark beetle infestations is you're not exactly going to see the beetle, you're going to see the symptoms on your tree. So is it dying from the top down? Is it trying to re-sprout from the bottom or cause those epicormic shoots? So that's a sign right there. The tree's circulation isn't working because it's trying to regrow from the bottom. Are you seeing exit holes? Maybe you're noticing increased woodpecker activity as well, right? If there's more sapsuckers or woodpeckers, that implies that there's more bugs in your tree than there used to be. And then if the bark is falling off, you've got to destroy the tree. So at this point, the tree is dead, right? The bark is falling off. The phloem has been completely disrupted. So it's really important that you report this infestation and then you immediately destroy the tree. And by that, I mean mulching it. And you're going to want to mulch it finely. It's not a big insect. So you want to mulch it finely. And then for added measure, I say spray it with some pesticide because I'm trying to make sure there is no beetles in that mulch. And please do not keep that mulch for compost or for anything else. If you're trimming invasive plants, if you're having to destroy a tree because it's been infested by beetles, don't keep those kinds of things for your compost or your mulch pile. So the next one is giant reed. This is also another familiar one. This is one of those, we did it to ourselves. So we brought it here to be erosion control. And man, I mean, it controls something all right. So it's widespread in Texas. It's one of those, it's found throughout here, but it does cause significant problems. So it's really good at erosion control, but the problem is it will choke streams and rivers. It will grow so much that it will grow across and interrupt the water flow, interrupt the habitats. Yes, ma'am?
There's a piece on the far table.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Woo. You can't miss it. Can't miss it. Are you Dana? Thank you, Dana. Woo! I gotta see this for the recorders too. So, I mean, this is kind of a pretty standard height for it when it's been around for a while. They'll also have really long seed plumes as well, but it is basically a giant reed. It's pretty easy to identify. So you will notice some striations along the leaves. That's pretty much how that one would look. So they grow really dense, a lot of stands. You're going to see them in your ditches. You're probably going to notice them as soon as you leave here, but they're often found in ditches or in between farmlands or kind of just anywhere they ended up getting planted. And then they often have these really big seed plumes at the top. So like another foot on top of that is the plant itself. So it can have even 2-foot plumes, and they've just ended. They are out more around August and September. And really the way to manage this, Parks and Wildlife has an arundo control program, and they talk about pull, kill, plant. Basically pull the plant if you can. If you can't pull it, then you kill it with herbicide, and then you plant something in its place. That is really how you go about it, is you can do mechanical and chemical with this, but it's gonna take a lot of repetition. You're gonna have to be going and doing that a lot. Hold on, gotta get set up for the next one. All right, so I only have one of these. So y'all pass it around. Make sure it gets to the other side of the room. The next one, this is one that's not here yet, but I am very concerned about it getting here. So this is one of those insects. It's a very good flyer. So it's already here, and now it's able to get as wherever it needs to go. So this is the spotted lanternfly. It's native to China. It was first reported in Pennsylvania in 2014. So this is also one of our more recent invasive species as well. And it was thought to get here just, importation of plants. That's how a lot of insects and invertebrates get here. It's just the movement of plants. And so it got over here, and then because it is a good, strong flyer, all it takes is a couple to get here, and then they can fly and go wherever they want. So it is expanding. It recently expanded into Indiana, Michigan, North Carolina, and Ohio. The reason that we're concerned about this one is because it feeds on a lot of different host plants. It can feed up onto 70 different types of plants from different genera, subfamilies, like they can feed on a lot, and we're very concerned about our grapevines here in Texas. Yes, we do grow some stone fruit, which is one of theirs, But we're not really concerned about apples or cherries because we can't grow them. But we are very concerned about our grapevines. We have a very good, y'all just talked about a winemaking class, right? Like we have a really good industry here. So we're concerned about that aspect. And the reason we're also concerned about the spotted lanternfly, I know North Carolina, Ohio seems like a really long way away. But the problem is insects and plants will develop these relationships. The spotted lanternfly has a relationship with the invasive tree of heaven. They come from the exact same place in Asia. So it's one of its host plants. It's basically like the spotted lanternfly came here and said, hey, I know you, let's hang out. And that's what they've been doing. This is where Tree of Heaven is in Texas. Tree of Heaven is here in Texas. It is in wine-producing areas of Texas as well. So also, if you happen to have Tree of Heaven in your yard, please promptly remove it. That's another reason not to have invasive plants. You might be bringing invasive insects into your yard because of their previous relationships. So the Tree of Heaven is a pretty unique looking tree. It was one of those ornamentals brought back in 1784, so is eradication possible? No, but can you remove it from your yard? Yes, please. So if you have a tree that has large and compound leaves that have 11 to 25 leaflets that alternate along the stem, and you notice that it's got these green flowers in the late spring, but actually this past summer you notice these beautiful seeds on it, then you have a Tree of Heaven and you need to promptly remove it. So these Samara seeds are what are really unique to it. So like how ash seeds have these papery thin Samaras? They have Samaras as well, but they're this vibrant, like pink and orange, and so that's partly why it was imported. We import things that we think are pretty or smell nice. It looks pretty. So that's why we're concerned about the spotted lanternfly, because we have the habitat here. We have the grapes, we have the Tree of Heaven, so all it does is need to get here. The one upside about this is a big bug. I'm passing it around now. It's 1 inch. For a bug, that's pretty big. I appreciate a big bug. I appreciate a conspicuous bug as well. We do not have any flying insect that looks like this at all. So if you see something that's big with spots and then it looks like it's got a watermelon wing, like there's some pink and black going on, please contact us. Please send us a picture. We would definitely want to confirm that, and then we'd have to move out on that because it's not here in the state. So it is very unique. Even their instars are really unique. They start off black and white, so they're pretty conspicuous, and then they get a little more red in them, which prepare them for that adult stage. So that is the spotted lanternfly that we need to look out for. The next one is the Chinese privet. So as the name suggests, it's native to China, and this is one where it can be a shrub if you keep it a shrub. It can be a 60-foot tree if it's out in the woods. It kind of just depends on how it's growing to its advantage. It is an ornamental. It was brought back in the 1850s. It is still widely for sale. It is not a prohibited plant in the state of Texas. However, it outcompetes native plants, so it produces hundreds of thousands of seeds. It's very shade tolerant as well. So the thing is that they'll start growing and they're dropping their seeds and they're growing, and they can basically eliminate understory as they're growing because they're dropping seeds, they're changing it to their benefit at the same time. And to top it off, the berries aren't even that beneficial. They're certainly poisonous to humans, so they're not even that beneficial. The flowers do smell nice. It can be a really good pollinator, but that's also really important. We'll talk about it when we get to management, but never spray herbicide or pesticide when the plants are flowering, but definitely no herbicides when your plants are flowering. So you may have a ligustrum and it may be driving you crazy, but just wait until the berries come out and then treat it. So it looks like there are a lot of different privets out there, but to me, a ligustrum is a ligustrum is a ligustrum. They're all invasive. It's just who's more invasive. This one's the most invasive, but they all have very similar traits. So having oblong leaves that The leaves themselves are 1 to 3 inches, but they can have very long branches so that they can become, those branches can be several feet in length. The leaves are opposite one another, and they'll have numerous white, fragrant flower clusters, very fragrant. You kind of can smell them before you see them. And then they produce hundreds of blue-black berries as well. So that's really when you can notice it. Mechanical and chemical is beneficial for this one. And we'll go a little bit into management, but tree girdling can be very effective as well. We'll talk about that. But cut and treat tends to be a good one with this one, where you cut it and then you treat it with herbicide. We'll get more into that. But you'll notice a lot of the times when I'm talking about management, it's more than just one management. And it's certainly going to be more than one time that you have to address it. So the next one, this is one of those. Got a little behind the ball here. It ends up this one's been here and we don't know for how long. So the Asian jumping worm. It's from the genus Amenthus. There are over 400 species in the genus Amenthus, so I'm not even going to try and talk about the ones that are here in the United States. What I do know is that there are several species of Amenthus here in the United States, and they all cause the same harm. So we're going to focus on what their harm is and why are they more problematic than European earthworms. So the reason I say this one's already here is last year I went to a few webinars hosted by Minnesota Extension, where they've been doing a lot of work on Asian jumping worms. And I just thought, you know what? I think this is interesting or unique enough that I can ask the public, have they seen those? And just in a few months, I found some in my own backyard. And then I got reports from Buda, Dallas, Houston, Huntsville, and Fort Worth. So that, and oh, I forgot to add Granbury's in there too. So it's kind of one of those, when you get that many reports in less than a year, that suggests that this has been here for a long time, and we've just had no idea because it's been pretending to be a European earthworm. So why is it worse than lumbricus? Lumbricus are a European earthworm, so I do have to make a PSA really quick. All earthworms are non-native. All earthworms. European earthworms were brought by the colonists. North American earthworms died in the Ice Age 10,000 years ago. We don't have any. So all earthworms are exotic, but our European earthworms, they do good things. Our Asian jumping worm causes harm, right? So that's where we get the difference between something naturalized, like a honeybee or an earthworm, versus something exotic or invasive, like a jumping worm. So the jumping worm is invasive because it is not a nutrient cycler. It doesn't compost, it doesn't provide nutrients to the plants. It depletes all of the nutrients. So much so that plants will even uproot because there's no more moisture in the soil. So they can inhibit seed germination and they reproduce twice as fast as the European earthworms. So they can have twice as many generations as well. So this will be one of the first signs that you might have an Asian jumping worm issue. Do you have a certain area of your garden that always looks like a little dry, or that soil, it just doesn't hold together? It's always just kind of falling apart, kind of looks like coffee grounds, resembles this. That could be a sign you have jumping worms. So because jumping worms consume all organic matter and all moisture, the soil is left without the ability to hold moisture or deliver nutrients to plants. So that's how plants can just get uprooted or just fall out, because the soil is no longer providing the stability that it needs. So their change in digestion with the jumping worms can change the appearance of soil. So that could be the first sign that something's going on underneath. So the Asian jumping worms, they're the kind that reside in the topsoil layer of yours. So they're not the tunnelers, they're more of the ones that are right along the topsoil. So you should find them within like the first 3 to 6 inches of your soil. So what's really gonna be important is, how do you tell the difference, right? So there is a difference, thankfully. Not all worms look alike, I've learned. So over here, we've got our European earthworm. It really comes down to this one piece of anatomy. It's called a clitellum. Basically, it's this ring, and this ring all earthworms have. And our European earthworm, its clitellum is mid-body. It's raised a little bit, so it's not flush with the body, and it's pink. So it's almost like a saddle. It doesn't fully encircle, it's mid-body, and it's raised. So its clitellum is like a saddle. The Asian jumping worm's clitellum is more like a collar. It goes fully around, it tends to be white, and it is noticeably closer to the head. I know that sounds like, okay, we're talking about minor, but you'll notice it when you're looking for it, and please look for it. So here on these images, those red boxes are just showing the location of that clitellum. So it's gonna be more towards the head, it's white, but also you're gonna notice some behavioral differences with your jumping worms. They're called jumping worms, so you might have heard crazy worm, snake worm, Alabama jumper. No, they're not from Alabama, they are from Asia. So they're called that because of how they react. They're not like your normal earthworm. They don't tend to undulate. They don't tend to coil up. They tend to thrash around. They move really, really fast. You might think it's a small snake when you're moving things. That's how they react. That's why they're called jumping worms, because they tend to thrash around. Now, do all of them jump around? Not necessarily. But you'll also notice, I don't know if y'all can really, but doesn't this look so sleek and smooth, right? It doesn't look slimy and floppy like you're used to your red wigglers looking and things like that. That's gonna be the difference. Basically, you're gonna see a worm and you're gonna go, this isn't quite right. And that probably means that you have a jumping worm in your yard. It is important to note that clitellum is not always white, because sometimes they're literally full of dirt. So that clitellum is not always going to be white, but it is always going to go fully around the body, and it will always be closer to the head. And I do have pamphlets in the back about jumping worms. So please report those to us. So there are some invasive, there are some illegal plants to sell. So if you ever want to know what that list is, it's run by the Texas Department of Ag, and it's called their Noxious and Invasive Plant List. If you were ever out at a nursery and you see them selling a prohibited species, I want you to email me. That's my personal email. My business cards are also at the back as well. We need to hold nurseries accountable. There's literally hundreds of other species that they could be selling besides like the 20 that are prohibited here in the state. So this is our list of prohibited plants. That's it. So that's why it's really up to you when you're out shopping or you're out planting or bringing in new things or even educating the public about pointing out the fact that, I mean, just because it's for sale doesn't mean we should be planting it. So a few things that are really obvious ones for us are the Chinese tallow. Giant reed is a prohibited species. China berry is prohibited. Brazilian pepper tree, and then kudzu, climbing fern, your giant salvinia. So some of our very infamous invasives are prohibited. And yes, I've had citizens tell me about nurseries selling Chinese tallow. And I am not a legal authority. Our institute is not a legal authority. We are education and we are research. But I have connections to get a hold of those with authority. So like TDA is in charge of that. So I emailed TDA, and they were at that nursery the next day issuing a warning saying, you do this again, you'll be fined. Because again, there's so many other things to be selling that aren't illegal. So the next one is the Chinese tallow tree. I'll start this one over here. There you go. I only have one of these as well. But this one's a very unique looking one. I'm sure a lot of y'all are probably quite familiar. It's a lot more dense in the Houston area, but I know it makes up a significant amount of canopy here in the Dallas area. So one of its most unique features is that kite-shaped leaf. It's kind of like an upside-down heart. It will be changing colors right about now, or they might have already fallen off. I'm not quite sure, but it's introduced from China. This sometimes gets the nickname of Ben Franklin's tree, because supposedly he brought it over in 1776. I mean, it's highly possible. It has been tracked back to colonial eras. There was supposed to be a huge tallow soap industry that never happened. So sure, why not? It could be Ben Franklin's tree. The problem is that it's been here for hundreds of years, and it's very good at what it does, which is change the environment for its benefit. So it tolerates a wide range of environmental conditions. It grows rapidly. It's another one of those. It produces a lot of seeds, and those seeds can remain viable in the soil up to 5 years. So that's something really important. If you are clearing out a tallow, you've got to rake up the seed bank underneath it as well, because those seeds will just keep shooting up. So it will resprout from the roots. I've seen a tallow it was felled, and they didn't remove it, and then it started, from the log, it started regrowing. So it is very, very persistent at growing. It's one of those, I mean, it's a shrub when it starts, but usually it's a pretty tall tree by the end of it. I think I've seen them as tall as like 40 feet, 50, up to 60. So the leaves are that kite shape where the leaf is rounded and it tapers into a point, and they change colors. I remember we had a tallow, I didn't know it was a tallow till I was older, and always hearing, oh, in Texas, the leaves don't change, the leaves don't change. But then I'm like, well, Mom, look at this tree, the beautiful leaves are changing. Yeah, that was a tallow. If you've ever seen this lovely tree that changes colors, it's probably a tallow. The flowers are catkins that come out in the spring, but the seeds will also be quite noticeable to you. So they start off as little green orbs that then become this kind of popcorn seed is what we call. So they form these hard cases, and then within them are 3 white seeds. So those cases are actually full of tannins. So not only does this species has allelopathic effects. Basically, it changes the pH of the soil to benefit itself. That's how it forms monocultures so well. But the seeds and the seed coverings are so high in tannins that if they are hanging over a pond or a creek or an aquatic area, they will change the pH of the water as well, because those tannins are now steeping in the water. So they can change the pH of water as well. So the next one, I do have 2 of these. This one's gotten a lot of press the past couple years. Thankfully, it's a really unique looking one. So I've got a large one and a small one going around. All right, so these are the hammerhead flatworms. So there are 2 species here in Texas. There's probably about 6 species here in the United States. One of the things at the press, I kept trying to correct them when it came out a couple of years ago. We've known this to be in Texas for several decades. The problem is it was not perceived as an invasive species for so long. Even some old outreach material will still have it listed as just your yard planarian. In technicality, yes, it is a planarian, it is a flatworm. The problem is it's a predator of earthworms. Now, I know I just said all earthworms are exotic, but European earthworms serve a very good purpose in your garden and your agricultural settings. They serve a very good purpose. So we certainly don't want predators coming and eating the earthworms. So it's really been in the last 10 years that we started calling this what it is, which is an invasive species. So it's been here in the United States for over a century, and it's probably been in at least the Houston area, I know anecdotally, from the 1980s. From citizen reports over the past few years, we know now that it is pretty widespread throughout the state. It's going to be in your more humid environments. So is it widespread in like Lubbock and El Paso? No, not so much. But pretty much if you divide the state, if you know Kerrville, anything east of Kerrville is where the flatworm is at. So it's one of those, it's a flatworm. It will get into really weird places. It doesn't have a cuticle, so it can squeeze anywhere it wants to. So you may find it in your shower. That does not mean your shower's infested, okay? It's just, it happens. It gets in where it fits in. Oftentimes you might see it stuck to your animal's leg. I've gotten a lot of those stories. And just pull it off, throw it away in a sealed container. So this is one of those you want to throw away in a sealed container, spray it with vinegar or put salt on it. You want to destroy it. If you just throw it over the fence or just throw it in the garbage can, it's going to crawl out. It's going to find a way out. And this is also the one you don't want to cut into pieces because it will regenerate, right? It will. You just make more. I've had people tell me, well, it's sensitive to fire. And I'm like, yes, it's a flatworm. I'm sensitive to fire. Most things are sensitive to fire. So you treat this however you need to. It's just one of those, if you see it, please remove it from your yard. You'll also hear people talk about neurotoxin. Yes, technically it secretes a neurotoxin. That neurotoxin's primary function is to eat earthworms. So it's harmful to earthworms. It is not harmful to complex vertebrates like ourselves. So for the most part, if you touch it, you should be fine. But if you're worried, please use gloves. But please throw it away if you see it. I think one of our last species is the Japanese honeysuckle. So this is one of those, like I remember growing up with this at the school I went to, used to have fragrant honeysuckles. And so this is one of those that has really nice flowers. You've probably seen it around, and it's been here for quite a while. It was introduced in the early 1800s. It spread from New England to the Ohio Valley, and then it reached Texas in about the 1980s, or a little bit earlier than that, and it's kind of taken over. So it's one of those vines that it grows really fast. It grows really heartily. What we're concerned about when we talk about invasive vines is oftentimes it can create ladder fuel, which is something that we don't want. Oftentimes they're growing and they're smothering over other plants, and so then if you have a natural wildfire, but then you have this vine that's allowing the fire to reach the canopy, you've now got an out of control fire. So that's what we're concerned about with a lot of our invasive vines. But, like some people have said, well, my trumpet vine is invasive. Well, if it's a problem in your yard, take it down. I'm not telling you not to take things down, but it's one of those, if it is a problem, please remove it. So it's climbing, it's a woody vine, and it's extremely fragrant, and the flowers tend to be white and turn yellow with age, and they often generate 2 flowers off of an axil. Sorry, I stepped off screen. I've been doing so good. I'm used to walking around. So the leaves are opposite. This is something that's pretty interesting. So if the leaves are produced in the spring, they're going to have a lot of lobes. If they're produced in the summer, they're going to have no lobes. So sometimes leaves are not even going to be that helpful for you, right? It'll really come down to kind of the whole gestalt, the whole appearance of it. How are the flowers? How do they smell? Is it a vine? Is it producing these black berries as well? So the berries will be single or paired from a stalk. So this is one of those that it can be pretty easy to identify, and we definitely don't want you treating it during the flowering periods. So now management. You're going to treat early and remove often. That's really a lot of it. Is if you can hand pull it, please hand pull it. But oftentimes it's going to probably require a little mechanical, biological, and chemical control. If you do have to use chemicals, please always be aware of windy days. Please use your own protection, and then be aware of the animals around you as well. And then, as y'all are all very familiar, is plant natives. So you definitely want to monitor that seed bank, because the privets, the tallows, the china berries, the nandinas, all of them, they're really good at producing seeds, really good at it. So you want to be sure to clear out that that seed bank before you plant. So some common mechanical things, again, if it's small, pull it out with your hands. If it's a little bigger, there are things called weed wrenches or and they just wrench it out of the dirt, so it can be better for larger trees. Consistent mowing can be good depending on what you're trying to manage. And I do have a list in the back. It's just for a few species of trees, grass, and pests, but there are some management strategies in the back. Prescribed fire is very effective if you're even allowed to do it, or if there's not a drought happening. And then tree girdling. This one's really effective. If you want to write down the name Cliff Tylick, He's a master naturalist in the state, and he's posted several YouTube videos on how he has successfully girdled privet, and he's been able to clear acres of it. He tends to manage in an area where cut and treat isn't really possible, so girdling can be very effective. Basically, you remove that outer layer of bark. You're basically disrupting the circulatory system of the tree, so the tree does eventually die. So girdling can be very effective. I definitely recommend watching his videos. He's also very enthusiastic about it. So chemical, it's one of those, if you need to use it, just please be selective, follow directions, try to do what you can to reduce overspray. Some of the common treatment methods are cut and treat. This is one of my favorites just because you can really focus it. So the really important part about cut and treat is you need to be spraying herbicide or painting herbicide on that stump within minutes of cutting it, not hours, not the next day, minutes. So if you're planning to cut and treat something, you better have one person cutting and one person treating, because that's really how you make it most effective. Think about when you get a cut. You get a cut when it's fresh, it's all open and irritated, but by the next day you already have a scab forming over it. That's exactly what trees are doing at the same time. So the longer you wait to apply herbicide between your cuts, you're just gonna be right back at it again because it's gonna keep growing. So I like cut and treat because you can literally paint on the herbicide. You don't even have to be spraying it. You can really focus it on what you're trying to treat. But direct foliar spray, sometimes that's the only way you can reach the plant. Sometimes it's just not, maybe it's too large to actually fell the tree. So foliar spray can be very effective. This is the one that we certainly do not apply during flowering periods, right? Herbicide can impact our pollinators, so we don't want to spray it. And I always like to use this picture. So he's got a spray nozzle, but there's a milk gallon right over it. That's just focusing where the spray goes. So instead of it going out like this, it's going more focused, so you're controlling what you're treating. Basal spray is it's the same concept, it's just you spray the base of a tree instead. Some plants don't respond well to basals, but it's always if you keep at it, something is bound to work. And then you've got the hack and squirt. This might be more employed by a professional, but you can always do it at home if you've got a hatchet and a spray bottle. Basically, what the name suggests, it's a little bit of mechanical and chemical. They're literally making gashes at the base of the tree and then squirting in herbicide to get it into the tree. So there's a lot of different chemical methods that you can use where it's not just spraying willy-nilly. And then again, just always be aware of flowering periods as well. And even if you're doing, keep that in mind if you're doing something like basal or hack and squirt. Even though you're not spraying the flowers themselves, there's been some studies that, so if you're injecting herbicide into the tree and that herbicide is circulating while the tree is making nectar, sometimes that herbicide can impact the nectar as well, right? So just really keep that in mind. If you're gonna hack and squirt or basal spray, again, just wait till after the flowering periods, after the pollinators are gone. And then the most important step is you got to put something in its place because they're ready to keep growing again. That's why they're invasive. If they weren't so persistent, I would have a job in something else completely different. I wouldn't be talking about them. So invasive insect prevention, you want to plant natives and then think about what because we've already talked about how the tree of heaven could bring your spotted lanternfly, how a lot of these pests hitchhike in plants. So just think about what you're bringing home and think about what species, because sometimes it can be a host to an exotic pest. And also, again, whether your tree has died from invasive or native bark beetle damage, if your tree has died from bark beetles, do not keep it as firewood. Do not share it with your friends. Please mulch the tree immediately and have it bagged and disposed of. I say this because I had somebody, his neighbor, her oak tree died She chopped it up for firewood. She shared it with him. Now his oak tree's dying. I said, did her tree die of beetles? Said yes. I'm like, that's why we don't move firewood, right? That's really why we don't move firewood. It's because if it has beetles in it, right? So it's one of those like, yes, we want to repurpose, reuse, and do what we can, but some things you gotta mulch it down. So Asian jumping worm prevention is going to be a little bit trickier. Really, you just don't want them in your yard to begin with. So just be aware, especially if you're an angler, look at what the name of your bait is. And then when you are done with that bait, you need to be done with the bait. So definitely don't buy from the bad guy bait shop. Don't buy any Alabama jumpers, snake worms, crazy worms. Those are Amynthus jumping worms and we don't want them. Clean, play, go. Definitely keep this in mind when you're touring other people's areas, right? Rinsing off your rubber boots before you go into another yard. And then keep that in mind. If you suspect that Asian jumping worms are in your yard, right, you definitely want to keep these kinds of things in mind about rinsing off your equipment before going somewhere else, just in case there are egg casings or something in the dirt. You want to dispose of any unwanted worms. So your bait worms, that's what I mean. You got to throw them away in the trash. Don't dump them in the water. They could swim to the edge. And remember, all earthworms are non-native. Our lake systems and our forests have no need for earthworms. So if you're done fishing, throw them away. Also, because they don't drown, and then again, we're not trying to introduce European earthworms. Yes, European earthworms are good, but they do cause significant damages in our forests. And then if you're a vermicomposter, just look at your worms. Now, I've looked at the vermicomposters around here, and 99% of the time it's red wrigglers. As long as you know what a red wriggler is and you make sure none of them have a white collar, you should be good. There really shouldn't be anything to be concerned about, but just keep an eye on it. I actually presented at the Keep Texas Beautiful, and there was a vermicomposter. She was there, and she's like, I saw your talk. Can you look at my bucket of worms? I was like, yes, I would love to look at your bucket of worms. She's like, is this weird? I'm like, no, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, is helping you to, yes, confirm those are red wigglers. See, look at the clitellum. It's like a saddle and not a collar. So you find a sentinel pest, which are some of those that you can report, or an invasive species. Now what? You want to report it and remove it, like we were just talking about. So you definitely want to remove it. And so sometimes I get, why do I report to texasinvasives.org? I put it on iNaturalist. Why not do that? The thing is that if you send it to us, we have direct connections with Parks and Wildlife, with the Forest Service, right, with TDA, that we can help streamline that information as opposed to them scouring iNaturalist, which I'm sure that there are some people that, they're able to do that. And it may seem like, oh, well, why can't they just... We all have a lot to do, so this really just helps streamline it. These are our partners that we have immediate access to, so if you tell us, especially about something like the emerald ash borer or the spotted lanternfly, which are the two to immediately report, we're gonna let these people know, because they need to know and be able to act accordingly. So we do have QR codes available, but this is our home page. This is how you report our sentinel pests. It's right there. It's on the front page. We want anybody to be able to send us a report about these species. So you can click right on the home page. If you don't like scrolling left to right, you can always click the Take Action tab, click Report It, and then you can scroll up and down instead. So it'll show all of the different species, that list of 24. These are, again, the ones that we are collecting active reports on. Some species I haven't gotten set up. But all of that to say is that there's a lot of different ways to report about our sentinel pests. We do have a phone app, and then you can report straight from our home page or on the Take Action page as well. So there are different ways to report to us. If you are filling out a report, this is what we'll generate. It's just a quick form. At minimum, we need your email and the location and a picture. I mean, I'd like to have your name and other information, but at minimum, we need an email, we need a location of what you're reporting, and then a picture of what you're reporting. And then it gets sent to us, and we're able to verify it and send it on to the or to our other entities. Like if we need to send it on to Parks and Wildlife or the U.S. Forest Service, then we do. So that's it when you're trying to report something. We just really want you to be mindful of the kinds of photos that you're submitting us. So like a contrasting background is helpful. Just being in focus is usually preferred. Like just in focus, like that's nice. I know what I'm looking at. This, I think it's I'm pretty sure it's a China berry. I'm pretty certain. But so the thing is, you're sending images to us for validation, for verification. So I have to have a certain amount of confidence before I can say yes, or hey, let me let the other guys know. So just making sure that it's in focus. And then what if you encounter a species, especially like our jumping worms? I haven't created the report it function for it yet. So if you find something that I talked to you about today or you saw on our website and you want to tell us, you can always send us an email at invasives@shsu.edu. Please include a photo and a location if possible, please. And with that, I'm all done. I can take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, let's give Ashley another round here. That was really nice. Just a couple more slides here. Have I mentioned before that we're going to be working on our mission drift? So we have a video link that was in the last Mark Your Calendar from Skip Richter. Skip is a very good presenter, and it's an enjoyable video to watch, so I highly encourage you each to watch it. And you will be getting VMS credit for that, 1 hour of education. And also, at the beginning of the year, January, early February, we're going to be holding some roundtables. And we really want your participation in this. We would like your ideas, thoughts, be creative on how we can improve continuing education, improve public knowledge sharing throughout the association and the community, and we want to have fun with it. So when you see some requests for Sign Up Genius to attend one of these roundtable sessions, I highly encourage you to come, bring a friend, and we'll have some fun. Share the love. We have 6 plants today. Oh, I'm going to jump ahead here. 6 plants today: Gulf Muley, Toad Lily, Wood Fern, a Salvia gregii, White Mist Flower, and Blackfoot Daisy. And all of these, except for the Toad Lily, are native. So the next monthly meeting will be in January. There's no meeting in December. And that will be up at the Coit Road, Texas A&M AgriLife Research and Extension Center. I think most of you have probably been there before. And please note that the start time has changed from 11:30 to noon. I'd also like to offer a round of applause to Sue. She does an amazing job here setting up these meetings. Thank you, Sue. And thank you all for your support. Oh, yes, thank you. Jelly sale. So Raincatcher's jelly sale is almost sold out. You can use the sign-up link on Mark Your Calendar and Facebook, and the remaining jellies are pomegranate, roselle hibiscus, and jalapeno. And TIG is taking checks if anyone wants to pay their dues after the meeting. Any other announcements? We're good. Thank you all.